Welcome to Book Banter with me, your host, Dianne Burkhart. I hope you will join me every Wednesday as we explore all things to do with, well, books. Let's get on with our show today. Hello, my happy people. I am so glad that you're joining me today. Today is March 29th, and I have got such a fantastic guest today. Of course, to be fair, all of my guests are fantastic because I wouldn't have them on my show if they weren't. But this woman today is just so much fun to talk to. You are going to love her. This is her first podcast ever. So I got to have her inaugural visit to a podcast and promote her first book. So it's just amazing that we get to have this conversation with her today at this point in her indie author journey. You're going to love what she has to say. I think she is going to be a name that you are going to want to remember because I expect great things from her. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and go to her interview, and then we'll come back at the end and I've got some more updates of things that are coming up. So please welcome to Book Banter with Dianne Burkhart, sci-fi author Linaya DiNoto. One thing that's really fun, I'm getting to finally meet all of these great authors like you who I have never met before. So I get to learn about you along with the audience, and I just absolutely love that. So the first thing I would like for you to do is to give us your elevator intro. Tell us about you.
Yeah. So my name's Linaya DiNoto. I'm based in California, Humboldt County. I just published my debut novel, Lithaflora the Chrysalis, back in December. So an exciting way to start off the new year. I've been writing for a long time. I have some music journalism and short pieces published, but this is kind of my introduction to the world of being an author and books. So I'm excited to be here. There's a lot of firsts happening. This is one of them. I've never been on a podcast before, so that's exciting.
Really? I feel special.
Yeah.
And hopefully this will be a wonderful experience for you and you'll want to do a bunch of these.
Yeah, it's funny, actually, leading up to this on my to-do list was get into a podcast. I don't know how or where to start. So the week before you messaged me, it was on my thinking docket, and then you reached out and you must have heard me calling across the ocean and it manifested. So it worked out beautifully.
I tell you what, I'm actually a big believer in manifesting things for yourself. When I was getting ready to go to the UK last year for an awards ceremony, I was up for a global award and I was up against these fantastic women that I thought, there's no way I'm going to win this. But on my to-do list that I put in my suitcase, I had put, they needed to buy a thank you gift for the woman who was watching our dog. I wanted to pick up some British tea while we were there. And I put bring home award. And I did.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. I think we need to start putting more things on our to-do lists, maybe.
I think that really just kind of like puts it in your head and you subconsciously do the things that you need to do to make them happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
What led to going from writing articles for music and other things to writing a sci-fi novel?
So I do have an English degree, and sci-fi and fantasy has kind of always been my truest and dearest friend. And it started way back when I was in middle school. And, there was the whole cult following of vampire books going on, and I got into that. And then I was really angsty, so I was writing poetry, and it kind of naturally evolved into me recognizing myself as a writer and knowing that that's what I wanted to do with my life and a goal I wanted to accomplish. So about 5 years ago, I wrote a short story in a creative writing class. And that's the first chapter of Lithaflora the Chrysalis. And the whole class really loved it and said this would be such a cool book. So I was like, okay, let's take it to the finish line. And I learned a lot of lessons in that first book writing experience, like plotting is a friend, not a foe, and it makes things a lot easier. And through the publication process, doing indie publishing, marketing, and all of these intricacies that go into the process that you can read about them and know about them, but you really have to absorb as you go and figure out your footing. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And usually,
Yeah.
whenever I ask most indie authors what is the hardest part about being an indie author, the answer is always marketing.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, what kind of marketing has worked for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I'm big on Book Talk. I make a lot of videos on there. That's kind of my favorite platform. I had somebody recommend to me that Facebook groups are really effective at kind of gathering other author friends and promoting in that way. So I've been dipping my toes there. I'm not super versed in Facebook world, but I'm getting a lot better. And then I've been doing some book signings and getting my book into local bookstores. So kind of my local community is in the know about me publishing and trying to spread the word kind of organically in that way. But it's definitely a learning curve that I'm climbing that mountain currently.
See, and I did just find your TikTok channel today, and you've got some really great videos on here, and you have quite a few.
Yeah, I'm active on TikTok.
Have you found that it has transitioned to actual book sales for you yet?
A few, not as many as I would like, but it's definitely happening. And I think, interestingly enough, the most book sales from TikTok have come from connecting with other authors and not so much readers. So my current work is trying to transition from what they call like author talk side to the actual book talk readers side of the platform. And that's an interesting transition because you have to craft your messaging and your content a bit differently. At the end of the day, I am an author, not a content creator.
Right.
So that's an everyday struggle that I'm trying to mitigate and learn and be better at as I go.
You said you've started doing some author signings. What is something memorable that has happened with somebody at one of these events?
Let me think. I think my first signing was just all around memorable because I learned quite a few valuable lessons, which is prepare and have your pitches ready. So it was a little bit nerve wracking. But I think the most memorable piece was just having so many of my people and my friends there supporting me
Hmm.
and knowing that they've read the book and they liked it and they were excited to have a signed copy on their bookshelf. So that felt really special to me to have that support.
I have this thing. I love having signed copies of books. I don't know why that means so much to me, but if I see an opportunity to go find an author like you that I have read a book that I've really enjoyed by them, that thing becomes gold to me after they have signed it. I have one book. It was like one of my favorite books when I was a child, The Wrinkle in Time.
Mm.
And I got that signed by Madeline L'Engle. And whenever I moved over to Europe, there were only a few books that I brought with me. That was definitely one of them. It will never leave me.
Yeah. They're special. It's that connection between this story that you love so much and you're invested in the characters and the plot and getting to interact with the artist in that way and have their fingerprint on there. It's pretty special.
If you could have your books turned into other things, like possibly a comic book or an animated series or live action series, have you thought
Mm.
about any of that yet?
Yeah, I have. I mean, you have really extravagant thoughts. And I think seeing my books turned into a movie is something I've visually thought of many a times. It would be really cool. I think it would also be quite nerve wracking because you have to trust that it's going to be done correctly and the characters are given justice. But I've imagined my book as a movie when I was writing it as well. I think
Mhm.
it helped me with the visual aspects of setting and describing everything, was picturing it live action. Definitely has been a thought experiment I've done more than once.
I'm always fascinated how many people say that whenever they're writing that it's like a movie playing in their head. And I know that's how it works for me. But then there are also those people that it's like, no, it's just words. I don't see it playing out as a movie in my head. It's just words that are coming out.
No, I'm a very visual writer and reader. So when I'm reading or I'm writing, I'm absolutely seeing the characters and the space, and I'm in that world fully immersed. It is interesting though, because for instance, my partner, he doesn't have that visual imaginative aspect when he reads. And that's so sad to me because I think it's such a cool experience to have that, you know?
Oh, same thing with my husband. He says that whenever he reads, it's just words. They don't form pictures in his head. I'm just like, that breaks my heart. Because when I read, it's just like I am stepping into that world and it creates around me in my head and I'm in it. And the fact that he doesn't have that, it's like I want to gift that to him.
I know, right? Same. It would be a cool gift to give.
Oh, God, yeah. So now, how did you come up with the name for your book?
I played a lot with Greek and Latin roots throughout the entire first book, and it's something that's going to continue through the series. The second book's being written currently, and there's a third book in the works as well. So Lithaflora actually translates to rock flower, and the planet that we're on in the sci-fi is a rock formation planet that's just like a jungle overflowing with trees and plants and flowers and wildlife. So it's actually a combination of Greek roots. The chrysalis, it's a theme I'm going to be following for the trilogy. The next book is called Aquacosmic Eclosion. And so the chrysalis, that idea of something kind of cocooned and in formation, part of that formation being breaking down and growing into a new form, I think is an important concept for my main character, Valen, as she navigates some difficult territory and discovers new parts of herself that maybe she didn't realize were there. So that's kind of where the name came from.
What do you find most inspiring whenever you're trying to come up with something to write?
That's interesting. I love music. I'm very, very much a music listener. So I like to listen to music and then feel sad or happy and then imagine my character kind of in that setting. So music plays a big, big, big role in my writing process. I think also talking, I'm a big talker. So bouncing ideas off of friends and community and being like, what if this happened? And this is kind of cool. What do you think? And vocalizing it and getting it
Mhm.
out for me is a big part of the process as well.
See, and I don't really have that option here in Germany because, we're kind of secluded. We don't have friends or family that are close to us. So
Mhm.
I'm kind of that same way. I need to talk it out. So my dog is getting really weirded out at times with me telling him my story. But
That's
for me, it works
fantastic.
because I just need to say it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I've been looking at your TikTok page. What is
Mhm.
like the overall theme that you're trying to go with on your TikTok page?
Well, my TikTok page started off as kind of a book reviewing page for other books that I love and I read. And that was because I love literature and I love fantasy. And so, in the process of writing my book, I knew at some point I was going to have to transition from making content that I really have fun making to an actual professional, platform for promoting my book. So currently, the theme that I'm trying to do is a lot of visual concepts and representations of what it feels to read the book and what my characters might look like or what their aesthetics are. I know that's very catching for viewers because they want to be interested and drawn in by what they're seeing on TikTok in a short amount of time.
Mhm.
And then recently, I've kind of started to do some more just honest or organic videos about this is the hard part and this is how my book signing went. And not that my advice is something you want to hear, but if you're interested, this is what building my website, that process was like. So kind of sharing with other people who might be just starting their journey and self-publishing what my experience has, how it's been unfolding.
And I think those kinds of things are so helpful. During an interview that I had with author Val Collins, and she's probably getting really tired of me mentioning this, but we were discussing about website building and I was trying to learn SEO. And she said that she had taken an SEO class years ago. And the only thing that she had remembered was to make your name the same on all of your sites. And mine, I had like
Yeah.
Burkhart Books authors on some, I had Burkhart Books on some, I had some that had like underscores. So they were all close, but they were not the same. So I spent a day and went through
Interesting.
and made them all exactly the same across everything. And the next day, my engagement went up over 600% on some of the sites.
Wow. Okay. I
Just
might have
from that,
to.
it was amazing.
Wow.
Just that one change jumped my engagement hundreds of percents on every one of my social media sites.
I might have to take that piece of advice. I love my book witch handle on TikTok, but it might have to be switched over to Linaya DiNoto.
It was incredible the difference that it made and how fast it made a difference. And my engagement has been going up for the last 26 days in a row.
Wow. Congratulations. I will put that into effect.
Yeah. I mean, it's just those little tips that you kind of casually mention to people. It's like, hey, this worked for me. And then somebody goes, I'll give that a try. And wow, the difference that it can make for people just by sharing that little bit of information that you found that worked for you. So I think those are great things for you to be putting on your TikTok channel.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the indie author community is exactly that. It's a community, and that communication and willingness to share information is so important to everybody's success. So I'm really excited to be working in that realm and getting to know everybody and see their pieces of advice. And hopefully, in some way, shape, or form, I can add to that conversation in a positive way.
I was telling Val, you did so much for me. I can't even begin to thank you. And she's like, you had me on your podcast. You were giving me publicity. It was a trade off.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
That's one of the reasons why I started doing this was because I wanted to network with other authors. I wanted us to be able to boost each other as much as we could because being an indie author is very difficult, especially when it comes to all of the marketing. So if I
Yeah.
can get this book show to be popular, then whenever people come on to be on the show, that helps boost their engagement. So it's all a win-win all the way around.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me here. I was so excited and kind of caught off guard. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody wants me on their podcast. So, yeah, you're doing the work. I really appreciate it.
Well, I saw one of your TikTok videos. I think I saw it through Instagram though, where you were reading the first part of your book
Yes.
and it caught my attention. And I love sci-fi. I am a huge sci-fi fan. Doesn't matter if it's movies or books or comic books or whatever, I'm there for it.
Same. Yeah.
So when you were reading that, I was listening and I thought, okay, this is something people need to hear more about.
Thank you. I hadn't really done a reading yet on any of my pages, and I was home. I work a full-time job in nonprofit, so balancing that with all of the author stuff is quite a juggling act. But I was home for the day, not feeling the best, and I was like, I'm just going to put this out into the internet ether, and then, I'm really glad you saw it and it caught your attention. That's fantastic.
Would you like to do any reading for us today?
Yeah, sure. Just in case you asked, I came prepared. So let's see. This is about in the middle of the book, and I think it's chapter 13, which is titled Moon Sisters, page 172. So I'm ready if you're ready.
Let's hear it.
Okay. It only stayed dark for 2 hours out of each day, the moons glowing bright and growing rounder with each passing night. They were huge, taking up almost the entire expanse of night sky and could be seen in the daylight hours as well. I planted myself in front of the window for hours at a time, looking out across the expanse of wild alien territory. It seemed the rolling green stretched on forever in every direction, and there was no sign of surrounding civilization. With having a real body again came the need for sleep, hunger, and all of the other things that it takes to stay alive. Although memory suits were some type of strange technology, it seemed they morphed genetically to the true form of a human. So everything that a human body was, a memory suit became. I tested the hypothesis, poking and prodding at my new form in the privacy of the bathroom. I even split open a glass perfume bottle and gently ran the sharp edge down the inner part of my thigh. I moved the blood between my fingers, smelt it, and tasted it. Sure enough, it was real, human blood. Not a simulation or a mere imitation. And with sleep comes dreaming, a sensation that I missed but has turned into a personal hellscape. Sometimes I dream of the car accident, the searing pain rushing across my body, a scream pulling me awake. Other nights I dream of lying in Elijah's arms, his mouth pressed against mine. But when I reach up to cup his face, a smile takes over his mouth and he shapeshifts into Finn, a laugh racking his shoulders as he moves closer. I always wake from this nightmare, covered in sweat and shaking. And then there's the unexplainable dreams, the yellow eyes watching me, the strange creature hunting me in the forest, and that man who I can't fully see and do not recognize, his snake tattoo the only solid identifier, telling me to run, run, run. Out of all of the men waking me up in the middle of the night, for some reason, he feels the safest.
That is great. I'm like really curious about the memory suits now.
Yeah, I was trying to find a passage that worked in a little bit of character, setting, all of it. So I feel like that one does the book a good window into, what to expect if you decide to read it.
Yeah, I think that's a very good passage to give us an example because it has me thinking, I want to know more about this. It's always good to have those little hooks.
Yes, absolutely.
You said it's going to be a trilogy. Where do you want to see the story going?
It's interesting. I have book 2 completely plotted out. I'm about 1/3 of the way done. So I'm aiming to have Aqua Cosmic Eclosion published around December, January. And then book 3 will probably be a similar timeline. So I'm hoping to have all 3 books out in the world within a 3-year time period. And in terms of my character, I don't want to share too much, but she's on a journey and it's not going to be the easiest of journeys. And in terms of, my goals and my experiences, I just don't have too many expectations. I just want it out in the world and hopefully some people read it and enjoy the story or find pieces of themselves in my characters. And that really is enough for me.
I was checking out your Amazon site. And you don't have a lot of reviews on your book, but the ones you have are so good.
My first rating I got, I think it was 2 weeks after the book went live, and I was like a little girl screaming, running around my house. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. It's such a good review. It was such an exciting, memorable moment for me when that first review came in. And as more come in, it's just such a feeling of elation to see people experiencing the world I've built and actually enjoying it and immersing themselves in it.
Well, and just going by the titles of the reviews, enticing, thrilling, shocking, a book I couldn't put down, 5 stars out of 5. A book for those who love the mystical and the magical, 5 stars out of 5. And then this one I love. Love, love, love. 5 stars. I mean, these are just amazing. It's like smart, profound, exciting. I mean, who can beat that?
Yeah, it feels good. I think particularly it being my first book, there was kind of an anxiety that, oh my gosh, what if nobody connects with this? Or what if it's not as exciting as I think it is? To see that outside perception match the level of passion and energy I put into the work is just extremely gratifying.
This is the one that really got me. The one that the title is Smart, Profound, and Exciting. The little blurb that they put on the very end of this book is a mashup of Steppenwolf by Herman Hesse, Dawn by Octavia Butler, and The Matrix. Wow.
Yes. I know, right? And Herman Hesse is one of my all-time favorite authors. So you can imagine reading that was a major moment for me.
See, and I'm a huge Octavia Butler fan. So I'm like, okay,
yeah.
If this is getting compared to her work, I'm going to have to sit down and read it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see those, definitely. I think the reviews so far have been one of my favorite parts of the process. I am preparing myself for that first review. Not everybody's going to like it, so that'll be an interesting experience. But so far, they've been really positive. So,
what would you like to do as far as more meet and greets? Would you go to Comic-Con?
Yeah, absolutely. Conventions are on my list of things I would like to do and start participating in. I do want to go to a couple writers' conferences as well. So that's something I'm interested in. I already love Comic Con just as it is a standalone. So being a part of it would be so rad. So that's something I'm super interested in. Yeah.
There is one thing that I have been doing with a lot of the authors. It's called 5 quick questions. You don't want to
Okay.
think about these too much. Just go with the first thing that comes off, top of your head, because they're not deep thinking questions.
Okay.
Number 1, what fiction genre would you never want to read?
None. I love all fiction genres. I could not take one off of my plate, unfortunately.
Number 2, if you could get a movie deal for your book, who are the top 3 actors that you would want to see in your movie?
No. Off the top of my head, let's see, Robert Pattinson, because I am a Twilight girl in my heart, unfortunately. Let's see. I do love Jennifer Lawrence. I love
Mhm.
Jennifer Lawrence. And let's see, a third. Maybe Zendaya, because she's a wonderful
Ooh,
actress and she's so impressive. So she would be really cool.
yeah, that's a good trio. I'd watch that.
Yeah, right?
I have to say though, I'm not so much of a Robert Pattinson fan from Twilight because I felt like he really didn't get to grow in that role, but I love a lot of the other things that he's done.
Yeah, my Twilight love was serious for a long time, and it's kind of turned more sardonic as I've gotten older. And now I watch them and I laugh instead of cry, but they are still a major comfort movie for me. So I just love anything that Robert Pattinson's a part of.
I admit I've seen all of them more than once,
Yes.
but for some of the actors, I just don't think they really got to explore their character as much as they could have.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
Yeah. Let's see, where are we? Number what? 3. What is your all-time favorite book? Can be a kid's book, one you've read recently, just all-time favorite.
All time favorite is Narcissus and Goldman by Herman Hesse.
That I have not read.
Oh, it's so beautiful. It's a fantastic book.
So if you're going to give a review of that one, what would your review be?
I think profound philosophical exploration of the duality of human nature and poetically written coming of age story that follows 2 main characters from childhood all the way to the end of their life, and a book that should be on everybody's list of books that they've read.
Very nice. You're very good at reviewing. Do you ever listen to audiobooks?
Yes, I am a big audiobook gal. Mostly I consume my reading through audiobooks recently.
If you could have your books turned into audiobooks, would you want to read them?
No. This is something I've thought of and I would really rather not. So,
But why not? Usually people love it whenever the author reads their own work.
yeah, I just think my favorite audiobooks aren't over dramatized, but there is like working with voices, and I
Mhm.
don't really trust myself to be doing accents, and I don't think I could do it justice.
Okay, I can definitely identify with that because I have started doing my books in audiobook form and I did a beta version of the first one, Into the West, The Orphan Train. And one of the
Uh-huh.
main characters in that one has an Irish accent. That was a little daunting, and I'm kind of worried about people who are actually from Ireland hearing it.
I'm sure you did awesome. That's so impressive. Congratulations. Doing your own audiobooks is I look up to you for that.
Well, we'll see if they actually turn out to be any good. I'm still in the discovery process. That's why I only have a beta version online for people to download because I need to figure out a few things still to make them really good. Last question. What is the worst question you have ever been asked by somebody at a meet and greet?
Oh, geez. Maybe how does the book end?
That is a bad one. It's like, please read it.
Yeah, I'm like you could pick up a copy. In fact, I'll give you one and then you can tell me what you think.
Whenever you aren't writing, What do you do for entertainment?
I have a very fun and entertaining job, so that brings me a lot of joy. I'm also a crafty gal, so I do jewelry making, and I've been getting into making miniatures, the little gnome gardens and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And yeah, and that's been a new hobby of mine. I'm wanting to pick up book binding recently to play with that and see, what fun can be had there. So, a whole bunch of stuff.
You do seem like you have a wide variety of interests.
I do, yeah. Sometimes I have to tame them down a bit because there's a lot happening.
What was it that made you call your TikTok channel The Book Witch?
I have a tea garden and I make tinctures and I live in Humboldt County. So I'm into the metaphysical and I love nature and I love the forest. And I feel really, spiritually comforted and connected when I'm outdoors or I'm in my
Mm,
garden. So yeah, that's why, because I think I'm a little bit witchy, maybe.
I totally identify with being connected to nature. Since we've lived in Germany, this is the first time I've ever lived down in a city where, I
Hmm.
walk outside and it's all sidewalks and pavement and apartment buildings. And I find it very draining. I'm a Kansas girl. I grew up in farm country
Yeah.
and I miss getting to just walk on the grass. And, I have to walk probably about 10 blocks to get to a place where there's open grass where anybody can go walk on it. So I definitely understand that whole close to nature, doing herbals and all that kind of stuff. That's definitely in my heart too.
Yeah, it's a big part of me. I think for a long time I wanted to live in a big city. And I ended up going to school at Humboldt State University and graduating there. And the longer I've been here, when I go into a city, I'm like, wow, there's so much art and food and culture here. I adore that, but I'm
Hmm.
also very overstimulated.
Yeah.
I feel much more at ease with less people around.
Is there anything that you would like to add in here that we have not covered? What do you want people to know about you?
What do I want people to know about me? I'm just so happy to be a part of the indie author community. Publishing this first book for me has been such an experience and an honor. I think it's a really fun, interesting book. I think it explores so many topics from philosophy to romance to excitement and adventure. And if any of those things sound up your alley, I would really appreciate if people took the time to check it out. It is on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and available on Kindle Unlimited. So yeah, I'm just happy to be here and get my book out into the world. It's a really exciting process to be a part of.
Now, this one is a really, really important question. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. When book two comes out, will you come back on my show?
Yes, I would absolutely love to. Yes.
Great. So as soon as you have a publication date, you let me know and we will get you into the schedule like a week before your next book drops so that we can publicize it everywhere.
Yay, I will be in touch with you. Absolutely.
Good. That's a deal.
Yes, it's a deal.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. You have been a fantastic guest. I cannot wait to read your book. I'm getting it today. This is going to be my next read.
Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful to be here and chat with you. And yeah, I just am so thankful.
We will be talking to you again.
Yes. Have a beautiful day.
So there you have it. Be sure to pick up her book, Lithaflora the Chrysalis by Linaya DiNoto. And don't worry, as always, we're going to have some convenient links for you in the podcast description so that you can find her information and her book very easily. You will want to follow this author. I promise you, I just have a feeling about this. Now, I do want to point out that you can go back in our podcast on our homepage at burkhartbooks.com/podcast or on our hosting site, bookbanter.buzzsprout.com, and you can check out all of the podcasts that we have done since the very first episode, which is where I introduce myself and tell you about the books that I write. So don't just check out whatever podcast is the current for the month. Go back and look at some of the others because we had some great guests back even in season 1. I didn't have as many guests as I would have liked in season 1, but the ones that I had were fantastic. So you definitely want to go back and check them out. They're all available back to season 1. Let me know what you think. I love to hear from people who listen to this. I want to know, what do you want to hear? Do you want more romance authors? Do you want more thriller authors? Do you want more cozy mystery authors? What do you want to hear about? Because that's what I want to bring to you. Now, next week, we have author Kelly Florence, who with her writing partner has written 5 books in the Science of series. And you're going to enjoy some of these titles. And we had such a fun discussion about horror movies and serial killers, and it was wild. Now, after Kelly Florence, we have cozy mystery author Stephanie Levine. And oh my gosh, she and I actually talked for quite a long time. Even after we got the interview over with, we just kept going for a couple of hours, actually, because it was just incredible how much we had in common. And it was a fun discussion. You're going to love that one. Now, hopefully, if we can get some scheduling figured out, after Stephanie Levine, we're going to have Patricia Harmon. She is a midwife who writes the Midwife novel series. It is just amazing the career that this woman has had and how she turned it into a fiction series that has become incredibly popular. So be sure to subscribe to our podcast. We've got amazing guests on our lineup and more are coming. I can't wait to share with you some of the other authors who are coming up. This is turning out to be such a great season. Now, I also want to sneak in some of my own books here eventually. I will be doing a reading probably at the end of April from some of the books that I'm working on, because I'm finishing up my Into the West saga serial. Into the West Family Ties is the 7th and final book in that serial. And I am starting my new crime thriller called The Touch, about an FBI profiler who has retired, but of course gets pulled back into service even though she doesn't really want to. I can't wait to tell you more about those, but it will have to wait, because you know what time it is, people. It is time for you to go forth and be happy.